And it's crazy that this is the moment.
The ABC 36 Storm Team Weather Center here want to cut into program to let you know about a tornado warning that we now have for parts of Powell County, also over into southern Montgomery County and over into western Menifee County. This goes until 7:45. If you were watching earlier, we talked about the potential of a few of these isolated cells possibly producing a quick spin-up tornado, and we've been monitoring this cell. This is the cluster that moved just to the east and southeast of Lexington and rolled out of Clark County, and now it is just to the northeast. You see the little bit of an appendage, which is right here. We'll put the I'll put the telestrator on it here, and it's just right here in this area. That's where the potential tornado is. So if you're in Clay City and if you're in Stanton and Powell County, you're not in the polygon, the tornado warning polygon in Stanton, so you're good there. It's going to pass by to your north. Clay City, I think you're in pretty good shape. This is primarily going to be out in the rural areas of northern Powell County. It looks like it's headed toward the Fagan area. Looking at our SCIT data here, which shows us what's happening here. The BTI, which is the Barron Tornado Index, on a scale of 1 to 10, only indicating a 2.3. This is not a day for strong tornadoes, big long track tornadoes, but nevertheless, with that potential, again, these could quickly spin up, drop down, and create a little bit of damage. I want to show our debris detector here, or at least try to. Evidently, our hand tracker's acting up a little bit here, so I'm going to step off just for a minute and see if we can't get it back up and going again here. But what we've got, again, is a tornado warning here for parts of Powell County into Montgomery County and Menifee County. And again, that goes until 7:45. So if you're in those areas across northern Powell, western Menifee, and into the southern part of Montgomery County, go to a basement. If you don't have a basement, go to an interior room, the lowest level of your home, preferably a closet or a bathroom here. You want to obviously put as much real estate between yourself and the outside world. I'm trying to get the hand tracker working here. It's not pinging on the top there. So let's see. Let me put it back into play mode. Notice how I go across. Let's see if that'll do it here. All right, we're trying to get the hand tracker mode here so I can kind of get on the wall and show you what's going on. So, all right, let me move it over here and zoom in a little bit closer and see if our, yeah, there we go. So we're in good shape. So as I was talking about earlier here, it's this area right here where we got the circle. This is where the potential is for the possible tornado, which again is north of Stanton, north of Clay City. Jeffersonville there in southern Montgomery County. Again, just be in your safe place. Again, basement's the best place to be. Lowest level of your home if you don't have a basement. An interior closet, a bathroom. You want to protect yourself from the potential of flying debris. What I want to show you now is the potential debris detector, our shear marker here. And where you see that green and a little bit of red, the signature is actually pretty decent, and then actually showing the velocity data. What we look for here is what the winds are doing relative to the radar site. The radar site is in Jackson, which is down here off to the southeast. So anything in red is going away from the radar site. Anything in green is going toward the radar site. So when you get these side by side right here in this area, that's where the rotation signature is. And as I was telling you when we first came on, we've been watching this closely for the last probably half hour, 45 minutes, and it was really kind of ragged, but two cells merged together, and then once it got into the northern part of Powell County, skipping out of Clark County, there's the Mountain Parkway. Right as it passed over the Parkway, right around Verdon, that's when it was really starting to show that potential signature with a possible tornado. And again, with the shear being actually higher than I've seen it with the rotation detector with this particular cell, I think we've at least got that potential again of possibly seeing a brief tornado touch down. Notice here where it's headed. There's Fagan, and then a little bit farther to the north, there's Means. Just with the track of the cell moving off to the east at about 20-25 miles per hour, a lot of this looks like it is more so kind of getting into the Red River Gorge area where it's a little more sparsely populated. So right now, on its current track, that's actually good news given, again, what the rotation detector, which has actually gotten a little bit stronger. When you see that red in there, that means it's increasing just a bit. Let me take a look at the radar signature here. And again, it's where you see this notch here. There's a little inflow notch, and that's the air being drawn into it right there where that V is. It's this area right here. That's where the possible tornado is. And again, the tornado warning goes for, I think, about another 30 minutes here. Yeah, until 7:45. It's now 7:13. So anywhere here in northern Powell County, it's really north of the Mountain Parkway. I will clear the telestrator here. So if you're in Fagan especially, the community of Fagan there in Powell County, and then running over toward Frenchburg. So that's right there on the Powell and Menifee County line. I'm going to broaden things out here a little bit so you can get a bit of kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on. So Clay City, even though you're in the polygon, it's to your east. You're in good shape. Stanton along the Mountain Parkway, and the yellow road here, that's the Mountain Parkway. This cell is going to stay north of the Parkway. So we should be in good shape. It's going to be more so out in the rural areas of Powell County, Jeffersonville, Camargo, right down US 460. So this thing essentially is riding eastward in between US 460 coming out of Montgomery County and into the western part of Menifee County, and the Mountain Parkway here, Stanton, which eventually runs over toward Natural Bridge. So a lot of this area is in the Red River Gorge. Again, fairly sparsely populated, not all that populated, which again is good news, except for some of the smaller communities. The concern is Frenchburg, the county seat of Menifee County. So if you're in Frenchburg, you got a lot of lead time here on this potential tornado. And again, just even the reflectivity here is showing the possibility of a tornado. And again, some of the shear data, the velocity data showing that where the reds and the greens are side by side there, that's an indication of the rotation. And then on our rotation detector here, you see it pretty good. That's a fairly healthy signature there. Meteorologist Abby Summers is in kind of taking a look at some of the other data, and also checking the chat once you get an opportunity to see if there's anything. Okay, yeah. They mentioned how the rotation has definitely tightened up. So I'm in pretty close. So again, there's Fagan, and then here is Frenchburg, the county seat of Menifee County, and there's Means. So really the western part of Menifee County, central and western Menifee County, this is the area that's going to be impacted. And the rotation detector, the algorithm just updated, and you see some of the darker shading, and that indicates, again, some stronger rotation with this, and then the actual velocity data with the radar. Green is towards, red is away. You get each side by side, so it's right here in this area that we have the rotation, and of course that matches up nicely when you put the reflectivity data on there. You see that appendage or that little bit of a hook. So actually, as far as the storm structure goes, it looks like a pretty healthy cell here. So we, again, have plenty of lead time here. I'm going to broaden it out just a bit more, and I'm going to put a storm track on it just to kind of give you some arrival potential. So there it is, and moving off to the east here at about 25 miles per hour. That's going to move that out of the way so you can see it. That's going to put it toward Menifee County High School, 742, and around Frenchburg, right at about 745. So that's about 25 minutes from now. And again, this thing's actually wrapped up pretty good. We talked about it throughout the afternoon and early evening newscasts that even though it was a low-end severe threat overall, the combination of the warm front draped over the area, that area of low pressure spinning in from the west, there's enough spin in the atmosphere to possibly create an isolated tornado threat, and usually it's situations like this where we end up seeing these things end up overachieving. So big picture here, this thing's north of the Mountain Parkway. The Mountain Parkway is right there, Clay City, Stanton. You're good if you're in that part of Powell County, but it's eventually here, and I'm going to broaden it out even more just to kind of get a little bead on the county line. So it looks like it's literally right on the Powell-Menifee County line, about to move into western Menifee County. And again, just as far as signatures on the reflectivity data here, that's fairly healthy. Let's see what the BTI looks like on the skid. It's up to a 2.7. Again, it's not high because these aren't expected to be strong long track tornadoes or anything like that. We weren't under an elevated risk of any kind. It's fairly low end, but if this happens to impact your particular neighborhood, then it's a big deal because it's obviously enough rotation where it could potentially do some damage. So if you're in Means, Cornwell, Fagan, or Frenchburg, in western and west central Menifee County, you need to be in your safe place now. Go to a basement. If you don't have a basement, go to an interior room, the lowest level of your home, preferably a closet or a bathroom. You want to cover yourself, pillows, blankets. Best thing you can do a lot of times, even with a weak tornado. Now, with the latest reflectivity update, that notch isn't as pronounced, but looking at the sheer rotation detector here, the algorithm is still picking up on some pretty strong rotation. I mean, back when it was over Clark County, it was barely showing up any green. The fact that it's lighter green with some red in it, that indicates that we've got the potential of, again, seeing, and I'm not seeing anything, you know, lofted. It would be in this area right here. That's the debris detector. If it gets down, does some damage, and lofts it up. Abby, you got anything as far as?
National Weather Service employee is reporting pea-sized hail in Jefferson right now. They're also emphasizing that it's turning more right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, even though, and I'll put the reflectivity data back on and broaden things out. So typically, if you're inside the tornado warning polygon, that's when you need to take action. And Frenchburg, you're right on the edge of that. Stanton, you don't. Now, this area here along the Mountain Parkway that runs down into Wolfe County, Powell County, you go up the hill there just past the Natural Bridge exit. In fact, there's Natural Bridge there. Right there is the Powell-Wolfe County line. And here's really Menifee County, Powell County, and then into Wolfe County. But to Abby's point, where it was moving more so toward Frenchburg, it's beginning to jog a little bit more due east as opposed to east to northeast. So that being said, again, where the potential rotation is, and in fact, I'm going to go in like super close here just to kind of give you an idea of some of the areas here. So it looks like Pumpkin Hollow Road, literally. This is all in the very, again, rural areas there into parts of Menifee County over toward Fagan, Hollow Ridge Road. Looks like, what is that, Spazas Creek Road? It's kind of hard to see. Any of these areas here, just to the southwest of Frenchburg and southwest of Fagan, Upper Cane Creek Road, this is coming your way here probably within the next 5 minutes. So I was mentioning about how to protect yourself. First of all, lowest floor of your home. If you've got a basement, great. If you don't, interior room, closet, bathroom. You want to get away from the exterior windows and walls. And the other thing is, one great thing to have, if you've got a motorcycle helmet, if you've got a bicycle helmet, if you've got a football helmet, put that on. Even with a weak tornado, if it happens to hit your particular area, a lot of times, unfortunately, when there are injuries and sometimes, unfortunately, even fatalities with tornadoes, a lot of that is due to head trauma. There's been a lot of research over the last 10 or 15 years that something as simple as having a bicycle helmet on or something to protect your head can go a long way, even with a weak tornado. If you're not in an overly sturdy structure, if you're in a mobile home, obviously that is not the place you want to be. Hopefully you have your severe weather safety plan in place and you can get to where you need to be rather quickly, especially here in Fagan and then running over toward Frenchburg here. Again, the county seat of Menifee County, right on the edge of the polygon. Again, the warning goes until 7:45, so we still got about 20 minutes. And just given the fact that this signature is strong enough, even on a day where we've got a low end chance, just given the fact the way this thing is looking and how it's kind of hooked up a little bit, we're definitely going to stick with this. I know that we're impacting programming here, but this, again, could be a potentially life-threatening situation. Abby?
National Weather Service employee is reporting a wall cloud driving east on the Mountain Parkway through Powell counties.
Okay, so what you've got is you've got the storm here. Here's the Mountain Parkway. Let me go in a little bit closer. So a National Weather Service employee is driving along the Mountain Parkway, and having driven the Mountain Parkway literally hundreds of times in my life going out into eastern Kentucky, you actually, when you're Stanton going over to Roseland in that area, you can actually see off in the distance. Notice how it's a little flatter here around Stanton. These hills, or even smaller mountains, you can see pretty well. Well, the Weather Service employee is seeing a wall cloud, and a wall cloud is the lowering and typically a precursor to a tornado that eventually becomes a funnel and eventually becomes a tornado as it reaches the ground. So when you see or get a confirmed report, especially from a Weather Service employee, that there's a lowering of that wall cloud, that's an indication there's a pretty good likelihood that we will see that tornado, even if it ends up being fairly weak, reach the ground as it runs through, again, the very rural areas coming out of Powell County, and literally this part of it is about to skip into Menifee County. So I mentioned Fagan means I actually think you're okay. You're dealing with a lot of heavy rain, maybe some small hail as well, especially with the reflectivity with the pink. But where we've got the signature right here, it's this area right here where you see that bit of a notch. That's the inflow coming into the storm. So this thing really has been pretty impressive, I guess, and intense. It's kind of overachieved compared to a lot of what else we've had out there. You see there's not a whole lot going on. We got a couple of isolated storms, but I think what happened is back here around Winchester, actually as it came out of Madison County and got into Clark County, we were off the air, National News was playing, we were tracking it. We had two cells merge together and it intensifies, and that is a common thing that happens, especially when you have, again, the spin, the change in wind direction with altitude. Winds kind of east-southeast along that warm front and then aloft, they swing around to the southwest, and that has a tendency, that turning of the winds, to set the updrafts in motion. So that's what has kind of set us up to where we are right now. So we're at 726 here. Fagan, again, Means, Cornwall, these communities there along US 460, which runs out of Montgomery County through Camargo, Jeffersonville. You guys in Montgomery County, you're good. More concerned about Frenchburg, Fagan, and again, any of the smaller areas there that are out here in the Red River Gorge. I mean, a lot of this is going to impact the Red River Gorge, but looks like Mariba, which is over southeast of Frenchburg in Menifee County. And again, that area, you know, very rural, very mountainous, but obviously if you live in that part of Menifee County, southwest of Frenchburg, you definitely want to pay attention. Looking at our debris detector, it's not as strong. We don't have the red in it, but it's lighter green, indicating it's on the higher end of the moderate area of rotation. So hopefully with the signature on the radar here, as far as the reflectivity not being quite as pronounced, there's still that little bit of a notch here, right there in that area, just right here. And again, this is where the rotation would be, down here again, just off to the southwest of Fagan. So really, again, I know it's not impacting a lot of people as far as the viewing area, and it's again a very foresty, mountainous area out into eastern Kentucky. Doesn't matter. Anytime lives, property are at stake, we're on, and we're on for the duration, especially given what we're seeing on the radar signature. You look at the 1 hour shear history, I mean, look at how more significant it was just a little bit back to the west before it got its act together. But we're still seeing enough with the rotation detector, and then the actual radar, even though it may have broadened out a bit, the reds and the greens still fairly close to each other, and the brighter greens and the reds, and that's typically also a signature of that rotation. And the fact that, again, a Weather Service employee along the Mountain Parkway here, which is right down here, coming out of Stanton again, Clay City, Stanton, you're fine. Looks like they probably updated it. Little part of Powell County, but again, not worried about that as much as Menifee County. You're front and center. You got about 15 minutes here. I can just immediately tell from the latest radar scan here that we're not seeing that more of a hook that we had a few minutes ago. I'm going to stretch things out here a little bit, and I actually want to, I'm going to go back and go back about 15 minutes here. Yeah, so watch the loop here. See how as it gets just to the east of Clay City, you see that hook and that inflow right in that area. It's really, really pronounced. That's probably going to be the area that most likely, if it did touch down, it would be back here of Stanton and northeast of Clay City, south of Jeffersonville, again, basically between US 460 and the Mountain Parkway. But the last frame, as we go back to now, notice how it is not as pronounced. So I like the trend, but we're not out of the woods yet. And of course, they are continuing with the tornado warning for about another 15 minutes. So it was moving slow enough, I think, to where they didn't feel the need to extend it too far to the east. So for now, front and center is this area in the Red River Gorge, Fagan, and then running especially over toward Frenchburg. That's the largest city in Menifee County and the county seat, and then over toward Mariba, I believe it is. So those are the areas that right now are seeing the potential of this possible tornado. Wall cloud spotted, that's a precursor to a funnel dropping and a tornado occurring. So Menifee County here, again, safety tips. Basement. If you don't have a basement, lowest level of your home, an interior room away from exterior walls and windows. You want to put as much real estate between yourself and the outside world. Interior bathroom or closet, those are typically good. Pillows, blanket, anything to protect yourself from the potential of flying debris. Even if it's a low-end tornado and it touches down, 75, 80, 90 mile per hour wind, if it hits your particular house, your area, even though this is very rural, There are folks that live out here in these smaller communities and these rural areas. It can really create some problems. So that's one of the reasons that we're staying on here, and that's what we're here for. So looking at things, again, I think it's broadened out a bit. I want to go back to the velocity data, and again, I'll get rid of the, try to get rid of the warning there, and then we'll go back. The circulation definitely looks like it is much broader than it was a few minutes ago. And just to kind of show you the comparison, remember, what we're looking at here is these are the storm winds. You see the legend up here. Toward is green, red is away. The radar site is down here to the southeast in Jackson. So what we look for are the reds and the greens close together. Well, let's take you back 15 minutes. And you see how those were a lot closer together. It was pretty tight back here off to the northeast of Clay City. And take it back even more than that. Let's say, let's try 30 minutes here and see if it'll go back that far. Let's try 30. So yeah, that'll take you almost back to its inception. So looking at again, the reds and the greens, notice just north of Clay City, and that's when they put the tornado warning out, is right after it crossed the Mountain Parkway, because again, that circulation there, you see it's pretty tight, and then follow, and it seems to be broadening out a little bit. And if I switch it back over to the reflectivity data here and do the exact same thing, you can see a pretty pronounced hook when it gets back. And it's pretty sustained, it really wraps up, and now it's kind of, that appendage just isn't there like it was. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, that's good in that regard. But you know, while we're continuing to track this, I want to show you why explain why they put it out to begin with in a thing. And it looks like they're extending it eastward.
You're issuing a new warning for new area rotation forming on the southern side of the old polygon.
Okay.
Cycling has good structure, so issue downstream.
Okay, so what we've got now is I'm going to broaden this out because the new tornado warning polygon has been extended eastward. So this one here, Jeffersonville, Frenchburg, you're firmly in it. But the new tornado warning goes out, and it looks like it goes until 8:15. So they're going to carry this thing for about 45 minutes. And it looks like it only is for Menifee County, I believe. I don't think it's even clipping Wolf. Yeah, there's a little bit of Wolf County there. Just down the corner around Maytown. Looks like extreme northern Wolf County. So what does it say specifically?
Menifee, Morgan, Powell, and Wolf County.
Okay, so there's a small part of Powell County here, and then a little bit of Morgan County, I think, just right out here on the eastern edge. Let's see, yeah, Morgan County, Easel there, Grassy Creek, and then of course West Liberty, that's all the way down the line. So that's why they've extended it for as long as they have. But I wanted to at least kind of give you the bird's eye view. So there is there's the original tornado warning polygon here, and there's the brand new one. So Frenchburg, Wellington, Maytown, Dan, Paragon, you're not in it. So this is going to cover most of Menifee County, just a very small part of Powell County, because it looks like, I'm actually going to zoom in now that we've kind of gotten our bearing about us here. So what Abby was saying is they're concerned about this area of rotation. If you see the black line right there, that's Powell County. Notice the warning until 8:15, and you skip over, there's Menifee County. So really, again, it's the very rural areas of Powell County. So I'm really more concerned about, again, Fagan and running probably Frenchburg and then down to the south. US 460 extends on out toward Wellington. But let's take a look at the shear here. You know, it's still showing it, but it's nothing pronounced, and obviously the rotation detector is not as strong as it was back here when it was in Powell County and about to move into Menifee County. So that's good. But again, the Fagan there in western Menifee County, you need to be in your safe place because basically it is right on top of you. Now with the latest reflectivity here, you see the notch with the telestrator here. That's where the air is flowing into it, and it's this area where I circled right in here. That's where they're concerned the rotation is, and it's a little more pronounced and enough to warrant, especially just given the storm structure of the tornado warning being pushed farther to the east to include, again, Frenchburg, Bariba, and then points all the way out here. So Wellington, I always get it wrong, Pomeroyalton, Artville, Dan, and then again, Easel's not in it. That's just into Morgan County. But those are some of the areas with this thing, as Abby had mentioned earlier, looks like it's trying to turn to the right a little bit, and that's actually a pretty common thing with supercells, especially those that are relatively strong, which, again, this thing's kind of overachieved. But it's not surprising because you have to think this area had plenty of time to dry out from the morning rain, to warm up. Temperatures were in the low 80s late this afternoon, early evening. Dew points, great measure of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, those were in the 70s, so it's kind of primed in that regard. Where you see the pink around Fagan, I think you're dealing with a little bit of hail as well. In fact, it's kind of sporadic. What you got?
National Weather Service has received video, and I'm seeing it now, that there appears to have been a funnel cloud near Highway 213 back in Powell County. It looks like it was trying to get down if it didn't actually touch down. So
okay, so according to meteorologist Abby Summers, and I think that was probably one of the things, confirmation, or at least instrumental in having the tornado warning issued to begin with. There's video now that the Weather Service received of what appeared to be a funnel cloud trying to touch down when it was back over Powell County, probably back at the beginning of the loop. I was showing you that a little while ago when it was much more pronounced. But there's still enough of an appendage, and when you look, again, at the velocity data, the reds and the greens, both the base and the storm relative, is when you get these two side by side. When you get the greens and the reds, and even though it's pretty broad overall, when you get those side by side, that's when you are concerned with the potential of a tornado reaching the ground. And you got to remember also, the radar beam is at the ground. The farther it gets away from the radar site, which is down here in Jackson, it's shooting higher up at the storm. This isn't ground level. It's probably, I'm guessing, maybe a couple thousand feet up, so it's not way high, but it's obviously enough to warrant, again, the warning being issued. And again, until 8:15, Frenchburg, Mariba, they're along US 460, really Frenchburg especially. With that being the county seat and it being a more highly populated area, just not taking any chances with this, just given the fact that the storm structure is there. We're getting indications with the velocity data, with a rotation detector. The shear is there. Yeah, we don't have a shear marker, but anytime you see this green and it's in the moderate category, that's a fairly comfortable place as far as the potential being there for a spin up that could be enough to get down on the ground and do a little damage, despite the fact that a lot of this, or at least this part of the storm, this is a very rural area of southwestern Menifee County, but the little community of Fagan there, it's right on top of you. We've been talking about Fagan literally for the last probably 25 minutes, if not longer than that. So you've had plenty of heads up. Same thing in Frenchburg. So if you are watching in Frenchburg in Menifee County, even if this does go due east and pass by just to your south, heading more so toward Mariba, if you're in Frenchburg, if you're anywhere in central or western Menifee County, you need to be in your safe place now. A basement. If you don't have a basement, interior room, lowest level of your home, preferably a closet, bathroom. Away from exterior windows and walls. You want to get pillows, blankets, anything to protect yourself from the potential of flying debris. I mentioned it before. Got a bicycle helmet, got a baseball helmet, even an old football helmet. Protect your head. That's the key. Even in weak tornadoes, if it happens to hit your area and the winds come up and create some damage, a lot of times, a lot of the injuries happen due to head injuries. So that's something in the weather community, the meteorology community, especially when we're tracking these storms, that we emphasize, and that is protect your head, cover your head. The skit data here, the interesting thing is, we talked about it when we first came on the air, the BTI, which is the algorithm that sees the rotation and kicks out on a scale from 1 to 10 the potential of a possible tornado. It was only about a 2.5. Well, now the BTI is up to 4.5. So I think it's had enough time to kind of work on this storm and just sees the structure and is reading the potential rotation here and, the confirmed rotation on radar and the wall cloud and the Weather Service employee. The possibility of severe hail is about 20%, where you see that pink there around Fagan. Typically, when you get tornadoes, you get some associated hail. So we could have upwards of maybe a nickel, possibly even quarter-sized hail. But this thing is running eastward. So Menifee County High School, 753, Frenchburg, 756. So it's moving along at a pretty good clip, although it's slowed down, because if you remember, if you've been with us here for literally the last half hour now, initially when we put the storm track on it, it had it in Frenchburg by about 7:45. Well, this part of the storm is still about 10 minutes away, but heavy rain and torrential rain and a lot of lightning is just off to the west of Frenchburg, but this thing's awfully close, just kind of proverbially as a crow flies here, where the possible tornado is. You're only looking at, I wish that was a little bit smaller, it's only 5 miles away. So it's just off to the southwest of Frenchburg. So Frenchburg, again, the county seat of Menifee County, and really anywhere across central and really central Menifee County, because it's into the western part of Menifee County. Montgomery County, you're in the clear. Powell County, you're in the clear. But farther east here, so Frenchburg, Mariba, Wellington, and then over toward Korea, Artville, Dan, that's where the polygon ends, but that's just into, that's Menifee County, and then you get down here, and I believe that's part of a little small part of Morgan County here. I'm going to switch over and see if I can get it to come up. Yeah, you can, there's the county line right there. So there's Artville. Easel's obviously in Morgan County, and we're just giving you plenty of a heads up here, just given the fact that this thing's been holding its own here for at least, 35, 40 minutes. So there's Frenchburg. Here's the part of the cell that has the potential of producing the tornado. Looking at the debris detector, it's still indicating some moderate rotation. We'll go in a little bit closer here, since it's really past Fagan now. And there's Frenchburg, the county seat. So Mariba, you're right along US 460, and then over toward Denniston. Velocity data, the reds and the green, it's not overly tight. Yeah, there's a lot of rainfall with it. There's where the potential tornado is. It's this, it's almost a little bit of a hook. Again, the inflow was pretty pronounced back across Powell County. It's less so now, but just that appendage that just continues to hang down here. Fagan is to your east. You're good. Frenchburg, better safe than sorry, even though, you've only got a few miles, between the actual location of it. Even if it goes due east here, it's going to be awfully close to the south side of town. So taking no chances here. Frenchburg, Mariba, be in your safe place. You live in a mobile home. A lot of folks live in mobile homes. It's great, affordable housing, but not a place to be when you got the potential of a tornado, even if it is a low end. So far, reports of wall clouds, reports of funnel clouds, and the storm structure on radar supports, again, the potential of a tornado reaching the ground here. Even if it ends up being a lower end one, 85, 90 mile per hour winds, that'll definitely do some damage. So the rotation detector broadened out a little bit, and I mentioned the velocity data, the toward and away, the reds and the greens. It's fairly broad, but it's approaching Frenchburg here. So that's a concern, with that, of course, being a much more highly populated area here. So it looks like Hidden Hollow Road. It's just right there on your doorstep. Now, you can see the green with the Google Earth here, very mountainous, but then things flatten out on the south side of town. Been to Frenchburg for school visits several times. You've got an area, kind of a little valley area off to the south of Frenchburg. And so it looks like it's going to be, right here in this area. It looks like, what is that? Wind Flat Road. We'll just call out some of these. Tar Ridge Road. There's Mariba. This is US 460. Also, it looks like McCausey Ridge Road, which comes out of the mountains and kind of down in the valley, again, just to the south of downtown Frenchburg. There's Menifee County High School. Just a big wall of heavy rain is going to come trucking into Frenchburg here shortly. But anywhere in Frenchburg, and especially south of town, that's where you want to be in your safe place. And you see the signature here, and it just updated, and the little appendage, the inflow, is a little bit more significant. There's where your possible tornado is, and just notice the jog, and I think we're literally just a few miles away from downtown Frenchburg. So that's another reason that we're definitely hanging with this thing, is the tornado warning continues for about another 25 minutes. So structurally, I think Frenchburg, heavy rain is moving into the west side of town right now. You got a lot of lightning with it, and where you see the pink, that is generally an indicator of some hail. And there's our 1 hour hail tracker. So maybe dime to nickel-sized hail in Frenchburg, and as far as the shear is concerned, it's down here. So it's a close call, and again, it's kind of the proverbial too close for comfort. Again, just the trying to put the distance marker here. Again, the cursor is like way big, so literally it's only about 2.5 miles south of downtown Frenchburg there in Menifee County. That's how close this thing is passing. But a little more concerned, of course, with these communities here along 460, I believe. Mariba, Denniston, and then Wellington. Wellington, that area of Menifee County, as you run over and get closer to the Morgan County line. If you've been watching a while, notice again on Google Earth how it's not all green like it is in the Red River Gorge and very, very mountainous. We got a lot of valleys and again, some smaller communities out here. And I know folks watching, maybe worrying about programming, whatnot. Again, just given everything that we've had, reports from a National Weather Service employee driving along the mountain parkway of a wall cloud, which is a precursor to a tornado. Also video of a probable funnel cloud back here across parts of Powell County, north of Clay City. That's when it really wrapped up and kind of got its act together. And it's still showing, again, that little bit of an appendage or kind of a hook. And this is right there in the area where that rotation would be. So Frenchburg, be in your safe place. See the icon there, that US 460. It runs down toward Mariba, Denniston, and then over toward Wellington. Any of these areas in central and eastern Morgan County need to be in your safe place with the tornado warning, as you see there, until 8:15. It's 7:51, so you got about 25 minutes. This thing's not moving overly fast. Our SCIT data, which is the storm algorithm, is moving east at about 20 miles per hour, so it's not moving overly fast. Now the BTI, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, it's down to a 2.6. That's good at least. That doesn't mean that you're off the hook, but at least that's reducing a little bit, which of course is a good thing. So within the next 10 minutes, at least this cell, at least a part of the cell that we're overly concerned with, will be passing by just south of Frenchburg, because the heavier rain, torrential rain to go along with a lot of lightning and some hail, that's basically moving into the west side of Frenchburg. But putting a beat on this, again, there's a leading edge, and we've mentioned Denison and Wellington, along with Mariba here along US 460. These are the areas where you've got plenty of heads up. Again, better safe than sorry. This was not going to be a day, and it's always the days that look very, very low end, and the setup doesn't look overly favorable. We mentioned all day long about an isolated spin-up tornado, just given the environment. Area of low pressure in the mid-levels coming in from the west. We got a warm front draped over the area, so the winds change from the surface. As you gain altitude, they turn, and that creates rotation. The updrafts set the updrafts in motion, which get the potential of these tornadoes going, and this cell has exhibited supercellular structure, which are the parent storms that create tornadoes. And again, the structure has been there for quite a while. It's 7:53. I think I popped on maybe 7:10, 7:15. So this thing's been holding its own for a while. And again, it has the environment to do it. We have a later sunset. Sunset still nearly an hour away. It's at about 8:50 or so. So it's still light out. That's a good thing in this particular case. It's interesting how the SCIT data is trying to jog it a little bit farther to the northeast here. But again, Menifee County, Frenchburg, you're seeing heavy rain, torrential rain, a lot of lightning, and some hail, especially with the pink there. And our hail tracker, or at least trying to show it to you there, get rid of the, or at least try to get rid of that. Now we've disappeared completely. We'll move it back up here. You see the hail tracker. We've got hail over Frenchburg, and then showing you our rotation detector. I do like the fact that, notice the green, it's not there like it was. If we go back, let's go back 30 minutes and look at the debris detector and how it is much less pronounced, and now it's gone away completely. Of course, that's definitely a positive to this as we continue to track the storm. And again, the structure of it's still showing the potential, again, of a possible tornado. But it's coming out of the Red River Gorge area and coming up on US 460 here pretty rapidly. We talked a lot about Fagan. Fagan, you're in the clear now. Looks like Mariba. It is going to be in your area within the next 5 minutes. I've literally mentioned Mariba along US 460 numerous times here over the last probably half hour since we've been tracking this thing. So again, it doesn't look as intense, but you don't want to let your guard down, especially considering the storm structure and what we've been seeing on radar. So I think the hail's really coming down here, especially on the east side of Frenchburg. Anytime you see the pink and then you start to see some darker shading and even a little bit of white in there and the reflectivity, that generally means that you've got some decent hail, and you can see up here that it's possible to probable. As far as the shear goes, notice the shear, our rotation detector, at least with our algorithm, which is very good, picking up on the possible rotation, it really is not showing a whole lot, which, again, optimistic about. Reds and the greens toward away the radar, which is off to the southeast here. That rotation is very broad. You usually want it to be pretty close together and brighter, and it's not. So that is definitely good in that regard. Anything coming from them at all, Abby?
I think they're considering issuing or extending it or downstream.
So I think just given the storm structure and the history of it and the fact that we've had the funnel cloud, we've had the wall cloud, they're just not taking any chances. So Frenchburg right now, it's going to pass by to your south, and it's going to run along US 460, Wellington, and then that actually eventually runs over toward Easel there. I think it's Easel. I don't think it's Zell. I mean, I've lived here forever and called it out 1,000 times, and this will be the one time I'll mispronounce it. Here's West Liberty in Morgan County. It is a far piece away from you. And hopefully we'll begin to see some signs of weakening. But again, the greatest concern right now is this area, Mariba over to Wellington, right along US 460. This thing's going to make a beeline just right down. Again, that's the main thoroughfare that comes out of Frenchburg and takes you into the eastern and really southern and southeastern part of Menifee County before you head over into Morgan County. And all this is well north of the Mountain Parkway. I mean, you see how far south I got to go. Yeah, you've got some rain there in Canton, but just kind of broadening things out just to give everybody kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on. Beyond what's happening in Menifee County there, we've got clusters of storms, Danville down into western Lincoln County, over parts of Rockcastle County, and then one cell there, looks like right around Fort Boonesboro. But this is the main action here, and this is the cell that we've been tracking for quite a while. I'm actually going to stay wide here because I want to show, again, the history of this thing. Let's take it back an hour. And so you see the progression of this. It's not moving overly fast, but the one thing to watch is right here in this area. There's Clay City, there's Stanton. You see the little appendage, the hook on the reflectivity. That's generally a signature that you've got some clean airflow into the storm that helped it intensify. Now, it's not as well But nevertheless, that kind of shows you how we have gotten to this point, and the fact that it is still showing that little bit of a notch there on the tail end, even though our rotation detector hasn't over the last few minutes, I guess, really showed a whole lot. But Frenchburg, you're basically in the clear. You dealt with heavy rain. You've got some hail on the east side. But it's this little community here, Mariba, along US 460, Clifton Road, and then running, looks like Bird Ridge Road, which runs off of 460. Here's Wellington, here's Denison, and again, here's the cell that is producing the potential of the tornado. Just tuning in as we hit 8 o'clock, looking for network programming. I'm Chief Meteorologist T.G. Shuck, ABC 36 Weather Center here. We are tracking a possible tornado across Menifee County, just to the southeast of Frenchburg. There is a tornado warning until 8:15 for Menifee County and for a small part of Morgan County until 8:15. The Weather Service has been tracking this all the way back into Powell County, just north of Stanton and northeast of Clay City. That's when it really wrapped up and kind of ramped up, and we had video of a funnel cloud. National Weather Service employee saw a wall cloud, which is a precursor many times to a tornado developing and dropping.
Still got another report of a rotating wall cloud reported on McCausey Ridge in Frenchburg.
Okay, McCausey Ridge in Frenchburg, which there's Frenchburg, the county seat. Not sure exactly where McCausey Ridge is, but it's got to be in this general area. So we talked about Mariba. It's on top of Mariba right now. Denison, if you live on Bird Ridge Road or in Wellington, and I know a lot of folks, you know, here in the metro area across much of central and eastern Kentucky, I know network programs starting, and a lot of the area isn't dealing with anything at all. It's quiet here in Lexington now. We got a few storms down toward Danville and Stanton, there in Lincoln County. We're here to protect life and property. Doesn't matter the number of people that it could potentially affect. If it's your house, your neighborhood, you would want to know, and this applies to areas out here in eastern Kentucky as well. So it looks like it just went by. So the area that Abby was talking about, okay, McCausey Ridge, what's the info again? A rotating wall cloud. So rotating wall cloud, that's a precursor to a funnel cloud or a tornado potentially reaching the ground. So that was back a few minutes ago. So that's what we have right here, which again is right over Mariba. There's US 460, which runs out of Frenchburg, and it's heading over toward Denison. So that area of Menifee County, basically south central into southeastern Menifee County. Again, if you're just tuning in, tornado warning for about another 12, 13 minutes. And they're going to extend it farther east into Morgan County and points eastward, just given the fact that this is rotating. But if you're in south central, southeastern Menifee County, you need to go to a basement. If you don't have a basement, an interior room, the lowest level of your home, preferably a closet, a bathroom. You want to get away from exterior windows and walls, pillows, blankets to protect yourself. And again, I mentioned this throughout our nearly hour-long coverage. If you've got a bicycle helmet, a baseball helmet, an old football helmet, a motorcycle helmet, something to protect your head. Research has shown, especially social science over the last 10 to 15 years, that a number of the injuries that occur with possible tornadoes or with tornadoes, even weak ones at that do damage, people are injured usually due to head trauma. So that's why, as far as the safety tips are concerned, that's one of the reasons that we emphasize protecting your head in the event of a tornado. And again, this part of the cell has been rotating for quite a while now. So at any time, it could drop just a quick tornado, and it could do some damage here along US 460. Looking at our rotation detector, Now the green has reappeared. It's down here south of 460, but again, it's reading the storm as a whole, the velocity data. Now it's picked up there, so it's essentially between Mariba and Denison, and then it's going to be over toward Wellington. Again, all these communities, especially Denison and Wellington there along US 460 in Menifee County, you need to be in your safe place here. We've talked about the velocity data, reds and greens. Now they're not overly bright, but when you get these side by side, this is what the storm winds are doing relative to the radar. The radar is off to the southeast in Jackson, so anything in red is going away from the radar. Anything in green is going toward the radar. When you get those side by side, yeah, sure, it's fairly broad here in this area, but that's where the potential tornado may be. And typically what we run into is we get these tornado warnings and they're generally radar indicated, and we just don't have a lot to support them. Well, in this particular storm, we've got the data to support it on a number of fronts. The radar signature's there, and it has been for a while. We've gotten ground truth from a Weather Service employee that was driving along the Mountain Parkway when this thing was back into Powell County that saw a wall cloud, again, precursor to a funnel cloud and eventually a tornado, a rotating wall cloud literally just back here. And then there's the new tornado warning that's just been issued. So I'm going to broaden this out here. So again, I know it's frustrating, network programming. That's a great thing about on-demand, Hulu, etc. You can go back and watch it. Unfortunately, on a night like tonight, this storm warrants staying with it. So now the tornado warning's been extended until 8:45. I was going to guess 8:45 just based on it. And it does include a good chunk of Morgan County, including the city of West Liberty and up toward Wrigley. So now we've got the eastern part of Menifee County and the central and western parts of Morgan County under tornado warning. So this is going to go for about another 40 minutes or so. I'm going to broaden it out and kind of show you the big picture. I know we're here in Lexington. If we're watching here in Lexington, you're like, hey, nothing's going on. It's not the case out to the east. We got 2 tornado warning polygons. Campton, you got a pretty healthy cell to your east. You're in good shape. I mentioned the cluster of thunderstorms, Danville, Stanford, and then running down toward Mount Vernon. We're good with those. But if you were watching earlier today, we talked about a spin-up tornado potential being there. Storm Prediction Center had our area. Yes, it was a low-level threat. It is. We're not dealing with 6 or 8 tornado warnings and a bunch of storms to be concerned with, but all it takes is one. And that's what we've got tonight, and that's what we've had tonight. And so that's the latest here, and we've been literally watching this thing for an hour. It's through Frenchburg, so Frenchburg, you're clear. You've had very heavy rain, a lot of lightning, and some hail come through. But where you see the little appendage here, it's this area right here with the telestrator, and let me clear it here so you can get a little better idea. Where you see that bit of, this thing can be a little tricky sometimes, where you see that little bit of a notch right there, that's the air coming into the storm, and then that's where your possible tornado is right there. So there's Wellington, and it's probably right around Denison. I'm going to zoom in. I wanted to go out just to kind of give everybody down the line a little bit of a heads up. And this thing's moving slow enough where we've had plenty of lead time on it. We've been on for about an hour now, tracking this thing, Dan, Easel, and then over to West Liberty and Wrigley. Now, if it makes a due east track and holds its own, yes, it would make a run very close to West Liberty, but I want to go back down closer because, again, some of these smaller communities, it looks like it's basically the rotation is right over Denison. Here is US 460 that runs out of Frenchburg. Frenchburg, That's your county seat in Menifee County. So we're getting into eastern and southeastern Menifee County now. So Wellington, safe place. It's on your doorstep, literally. I'm going to get a bit closer here. So Bird Ridge Road, which runs basically from Denison and then does a loop, and it looks like, unless it disconnects there, it runs over to Wellington. It's this area just hugging the US 460 corridor. That's where the potential tornado is, and that's where our rotation detector is as well. Notice it's in that higher end moderate. Now earlier, back when the wall cloud was sighted, when there was some video of the funnel cloud, we even had a little bit of red in it. So it was showing a little bit better as far as the rotation, and I'm in so close. You see the reds and the green. Yeah, it's broad, but it's there nevertheless. So that's why you got to take this serious here along 460. Again, Bird Ridge Road, Denison, Wellington, and then over toward Artville. Looks like Korea as well. Just this area here off to the east and southeast, more so east of Frenchburg.
So I'm sure you noticed, but watching that, cell mergers happening right now.
Yeah. Good point. I literally got distracted just talking about how the tornado warning had been pushed. What's happening is, as the cell moves eastward here, it doesn't have clear air or clean air. Look at these isolated cells that have developed ahead of it. And sometimes when you get these cell mergers, and it happened with this one, we had that individual cell that was in southern Clark County, and it merged with another cell and created this. So that's one thing that the Weather Service is doing right now. It's monitoring how these two clusters of gusty showers and some thunder, we got a little bit of lightning there, but it looks like actually a lot of the lightning is more so up off into parts of probably northwestern Morgan County. I mean, even getting up closer to Cave Run Lake. I mean, there's Cave Run Lake there, even into Rowan County there. But what they're monitoring is, as the main supercell runs into these gusty showers and they kind of morph together, what impact that has on the strength. Sometimes it can help it to intensify and organize a bit better. But we still have, now, it updated, and notice how everything's becoming a little bit more cluttered. The one cell kind of merged together with that shower that was down south of Wellington, and now it doesn't look, as well defined. But that's not to say it may not kind of get its act together once the three of these kind of join forces, for a lack of really kind of a better way of putting it. But still there in Menifee County, Wellington, Artville, Korea, Dan, probably Ebon, I believe it is, 26, Bonnie, Easel, that's along 460, and again, that's getting over toward Morgan County here. So I kind of want to broaden out. We've been pretty tight here with everything. So Frenchburg, you got some additional gusty showers to your west, and torrential rain will kind of move back in. It's obviously not looking as well defined because, again, these are kind of merging. But West Liberty, you are in the tornado warning polygon, which goes from Morgan County until 8:45. The one for the eastern part of Morgan County, that's going to expire here in about the next 2 minutes. But there's a small part of southeastern Morgan County that's in it because, again, of that cell that's right over Denison and the Wellington communities there, just off to the east of Frenchburg along US 460. So that's where we are right now. Sandy Hook and Elliott County, that's on down the line. So that's kind of the bigger view of the cell itself. As far as any hail, yeah, it had a little bit of history of producing hail. Doesn't look like there's as much now, but as far as the shear, yeah, there's still some. It's not as pronounced as it was, so it may start to weaken out a little bit here, which would be fantastic news. But you know the drill. It can be repetitive and it can be a little frustrating, but as long as the warning's out, we got to stick with it, especially tonight. Even though we got a low wind risk and had a low wind risk, just a case of where this supercell got its act together enough to where it was producing wall cloud, funnel cloud, and again, possible tornado. We haven't heard of anything in the way of damage or anything like that. Nothing from the Weather Service in that regard, which again is good. These were all along probably going to be, if they did develop and spin down rather quickly, they were going to be pretty low end. But a tornado is a tornado. It can do the same thing as straight line wind damage. We can have straight line winds 70, 75, 80 miles per hour, and that can do a good bit of damage as well. But just with the updated reflectivity, the notch is gone because it merged with that cell to the south. But a few more scans here and it could cycle and potentially redevelop. And I think that's one of the reasons why they played safe and issued it on down the line to include West Liberty. So extreme eastern Menifee County and then a good chunk of Morgan County. Again, I'll broaden it out here just so you can get the bird's eye view. Wrigley, yes, you're in the polygon, even though it looks like the part of the cell that's most concerning. And I think they made it a bigger polygon because it's been wobbling a little bit. It's been moving northeast, and then it would go more east and then kind of try to jog back to the northeast. So the Weather Service in Jackson, you can see the radar beam going by. So the radar is down to the south. So it's shooting up, and it's just guessing, it's probably shooting maybe a couple thousand feet in it, because you got to remember, the radar is at the ground, the beam goes aloft. So the farther away it is from the radar site, the higher up in the storm it is pegging off of what it's seeing. But that can equate to, obviously, that rotation reaching the ground. And when you get ground truth, meaning video of a funnel cloud, sighting of a wall cloud from a NASA Weather Service employee about 45 minutes to an hour ago, you got to take this serious. So Wellington, it's over top of you. Korea, Dan there in extreme eastern Menifee County, about to move into Morgan County here. You're going to get some torrential rain, some hail as well. 8:45, that's the updated tornado warning here. Let's take a look at
They're watching between Wellington to the Ebon corridor for new dominant circulation to emerge post-merger. So that's what they're watching for to see if that occurs.
So between Wellington and Ebon, right here. So essentially, even though the rotation detector isn't showing anything, where those cells came together, it looks like a big blob between Wellington and Ebon, because there's nothing down here by Easel along US 460. Your winds are kind of coming in from the southeast, so there's nothing to impede that airflow coming into the supercell. So as that inflow picks up between Ebon and Wellington, you may start to get a little bit of rotation right here in this area just north of US 460, right around Artville and north of Easel. And so that's what the Weather Service is saying. Meteorologist Abby Summers is monitoring the chat in the Weather Center. And so they're kind of watching this area right here, again, between Ebon and Wellington, as there's nothing down here to the south to prevent this supercell from maybe cycling up and getting a little more reorganized. So while it doesn't look like much on radar right now, that doesn't mean that we're out of the woods. And that's one of the reasons that I think they kind of kept things going, because the velocity data, the reds and the greens, yeah, there's some broad rotation there. You see the green there, you see the red there, but it's not bright and it's not tight. That's the key as far as a decent signature, and usually an indication that this thing may be getting to the ground. But that being said, while we wait to see how this materializes, and again, we got to stick with it. We got a tornado warning for and again, it doesn't matter whether it's sparsely populated or heavily populated. It's in the viewing area. We stick with it while the tornado warning's ongoing. Even if it's not directly affecting Lexington or your particular area, it is affecting folks out here. And of course, West Liberty, going back to March 2nd, 2012, hit by an EF3 tornado head on. This is not a night for that. We're not under an enhanced risk or an elevated risk for tornadoes at all. This was a low-level risk and generally a quick spin up. But I will tell you that this particular supercell has definitely overachieved. We had a similar scenario last Friday evening, which was actually, I think, a little bit more favorable for a quick spin up tornado. And yeah, there was some stuff back toward E-Town, but it just didn't really materialize here in central and eastern Kentucky. And tonight was even, I think, just on paper, lesser so, but we managed to get a fairly healthy supercell out of this. And it is, again, the signature on radar has been there and the ground truth has been there as well. And that's why we have gone on and stayed on. If it wasn't looking all that intense and the data didn't really support it, then it might be warranted to just kind of ride it out and let it go. But at this point, given where we are and how things have been looking, it definitely warrants watching. As far as the rotation detector, it's still picking up on a little something, again, between Wellington and Ebon, just right where the Weather Service in Jackson, they're the ones issuing the warning, said that's the area you got to watch out for. And that's the beauty of our rotation detector, is it gets rid of a lot of the clutter, which is a little bit more difficult to see. Again, you're looking for the greens and the reds that are fairly close together and brighter. It's not the case right now, but it's something to obviously monitor. And once we get the next scan in here, and it kicks a little bit farther to the east. But any of these communities that you see here on your screen, Yoakum, DeHart, 26, Licking River, Zag, Kellasy, Ebon, as we've mentioned, Artville, Bonnie, y'all need to be in a safe place. Basement's best. Don't have a basement. Interior room, lowest level of your home, preferably a closet, bathroom. Center part of your house, away from exterior windows and walls. Got a 2-story home, go down, not up, lowest level. Because even a low-end tornado, if it happens to hit your particular house and it does reach the ground, it can cause a lot of problems. And pillows, blankets, protect yourself. And I've mentioned it several times, and this is something that we really drive home on nights where we have just one isolated supercell here that's creating some issues, or on nights where we have a fistful of tornado warnings. More so, the emphasis is protecting your head. Bicycle helmet, football helmet, baseball helmet, motorcycle helmet, anything like that. If you're in your safe place, put that on, because research has shown that a lot of the injuries that occur when we have straight line wind damage or tornado damage for people that are sheltered in homes happen because of flying debris and potential head injuries and head trauma. That can go a long way, even with a potential weak tornado. So we continue to watch this thing as it works eastward here. Taking a look at the velocity data. Anything else?
They're just noticing a downtrend.
So our rotation detector, it's not showing anything. That's good. Remember, this is kind of a waiting game here. All these communities still under tornado warning. Again, Morgan County until 8:45. So that's about 20 minutes from now. I mean, we've been on an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes. It all goes by very quickly when you're processing this. But the one good thing is we don't have that distinct, we'll get the telestrator on here. We don't have that distinct notch here, down here in this area like we did a little while ago. And in fact, while we're kind of waiting for the next batch here, I want to take you back an hour just to kind of give you an idea. So here's the storm right now. Let's take you back 1 hour with the loop. And of course, it will show where the tornado warnings were. But back when it was north of Stanton, you can see that little bit of an appendage. It's kind of follow my finger there, and then all of a sudden it becomes more of a blob. That shows that maybe it's finally beginning to weaken and becoming a little more disorganized, because as it moved past Frenchburg, this activity coming up out of the northern part of Wolfe County kind of joined with it, and then we really haven't seen anything else become of it. But back here, when it was kind of skimming the border with Montgomery County, Powell County, and then into western Menifee County, that's when we had the signature on radar. We had the ground truth with the wall cloud and the funnel cloud, and that's why it was important to stick with it.
Looks like they're going to drop the warning, has weakened below severe limits.
Okay, so they just dropped the tornado warning. It has gone below severe limits, so we can sound the all clear, although before we go away, if you're in Morgan County, if you're in West Liberty, Wrigley, anywhere out here in eastern Kentucky, or just in the viewing area, we don't have any watches, we don't have any warnings. You need to just be weather aware as we go through the remainder of the evening. We've got about a half hour till sunset. And once the sun goes down, a lot of this should weaken out. But for the next hour or so, be weather aware and keep an eye on these storms. And we'll continue to track those, and of course, have an update coming up. Hopefully, we're not on again until ABC News coming up at 11 o'clock. So for meteorologist Abby Summers, I'm Chief Meteorologist T.G. Shuck. Thanks for sticking with us the last hour or so. We'll send you back to regular programming, and we will see you at 11.